And we're starting in three, two, one. Welcome back to Epstein Files Review, episode 35. As always, this is an 18 and up channel, so if you're under the age of 18, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And with that being said, we're going to jump right back down the rabbit hole. We're going to start, as we always do, with a recap of our last file, which was file 3400, which was this gentleman, Jean-Luc Brunel, the sinister looking man, and this gentleman who was in a couple episodes ago that we haven't identified. Very nice pants. And of course, I want to point out these skulls on the door here. This one looks like it's on fire. Now, Jean-Luc Brunel is known to have been a trafficker out of France, so it's very interesting that him and Jeffrey would be friends. Moving right along. So somebody pointed out in a previous episode, thank you to them for pointing it out, that in file 3216, the missing files were actually vertical. So they dropped down, they put all of the extra files on file 3216 and file 3236. So that was why every time I typed in a new number, 3236 would keep coming up. So I will be doing a side video to cover those missing files because, as I said, we're being transparent and we will be covering every single file. So that episode might be about 5 to 10 minutes because I don't think it's that many files, but nonetheless, we will be getting that done. So shout out to JJo2232 for putting that in the comment section. We will get that taken care of right away, just like we did episode 3 that didn't have sound. We redid that one as well. So let's get right back into it, jump right back down that rabbit hole. So for the first file of the day, we have this gentleman here. I don't know if we've seen him in a previous episode, but he has a piece of measuring tape in his hand, and it looks like he's measuring the sofa. Now we're clearly in Jeffrey's house. We have these hideous dressers that we saw in various rooms. He's the only one that would have something like that, but this was an identifier that we're in Jeffrey's house. As far as this file, I think the only thing else worth taking a look at would be this photo here. It looks like a black and white printout of a property, and it's got some things pointed out, but if we zoom in further, it's just going to get pixelated. So we're going to move right along. So here we have a picture of Jeffrey with what appears to be a cake in the shape of breasts. You can see the pink there for the nipples, and of course he has his signature Jeffrey Epstein hoodie on and his U.S. Army sweatpants. What else can we see in this file? Of course, he's got his high-end sound system that he had installed in every room. You can see some speakers behind him there. And you've got some photos on the bookshelf here. This is Ghislaine Maxwell. We have a redacted photo of what appears to be a young girl in a white skirt. This is a redacted photo. This is a redacted photo. And this looks like a vintage photo. It might be his mother. If anybody can identify this person, please let me know. I find it very interesting that he's got this book, The Whole Spy Catalog, in the background because it was suspected that he may have been working for Mossad. We don't have that confirmed, but that's the book that he had on his bookshelf there. The only other thing worth looking at here would be this piece of paper that he's got on his desk to see if we can make anything out from that. And it looks like it is a list of female names. This one says Molly or Holly, but he had chicken scratch handwriting, so it's very hard to make out the rest of it, but clearly that's a Molly or a Holly right there. Moving right along. All right, in this file, let's zoom out a little bit. We've got Jeffrey, and he appears to have some of that cake frosting on his chin from the breast cake, and of course, his Jeffrey Epstein hoodie. All right, so here we have some sort of dinner party. You see this man has a plate. You have these prominent figures here. I mean, we could try to see if we can identify any of these gentlemen. I'll show you guys what I talked about before as far as doing Google searches to see if anything concrete comes up as far as who these gentlemen are. So this is identifying his glasses. That's not what we're looking for. We're trying to figure out who this is. If anybody knows who this is, please put it in the comment sections. Definitely not Jeffrey Epstein. So we can't get a positive ID on this one, but there are three gentlemen here, and it looks like they're having some sort of conversation. We are 5% through this episode. Here you see two more gentlemen having a conversation. The background looks like that picture of that woman in the black fur coat on the daybed. So this is definitely in Jeffrey's house. And there's another gentleman there. If anybody knows who these people are, please put it in the comments section. We could try to identify this man by his face, see if we have any luck. If not, we will be moving right along. Let's try it really quick. Go by AI mode. And it appears to be Eric Morier. I don't know who that is, but we can try to find out. We're going to copy that, and we're going to plop it in here and see what comes up. So it says this person's a graphic designer, but I don't think this is Eric Morier. It doesn't look anything like that gentleman, so we're not accepting that one. Like I said, we only deal with concrete evidence. If it's not 100% fact or doesn't appear to be, then we don't accept it. We could try this person here. It's a pretty decent photo, front picture, so we'll see if we can get an ID on that gentleman. If not, we will just move forward, set it for AI mode, and see what we get. Freeman Dyson, British American theoretical physicist and mathematician. So these are all prominent individuals. We know Jeffrey was in the business of blackmail, so he would only surround himself with people that he stands to gain something from. I mean, that kind of looks like the guy. It could be. I mean, it does have a striking resemblance, but I'm not 100% sure that's him. This one kind of looks like him. Definitely has the ears. So this could potentially be him. And if you guys think it's him, let me know in the comment section. It does look a lot like him. So I'm almost inclined to say that's Freeman Dyson. But as you can see, he's a prominent individual that works in math and physics. So we're going to move right along. All right, here we have these three gentlemen here. I'm assuming they're world-renowned individuals as well in front of this giant painting that we described on the last file. All right, here we have this gentleman, and he appears to be eating an ice cream. You've got some servers in the background. You can see that long hallway there. And that wallpaper clearly shows, besides that painting as well, I mean, look at this, the multicolored wallpaper that we saw in Jeffrey's house. But these prominent individuals are having an in-depth discussion. Clearly, Epstein is the focus, the center, the epicenter of this conversation. And it seems to be a rather intense conversation. He looks very attentive. We could see if we can identify this gentleman, even though the picture is a little blurry and it's the side of his head, but it's worth a shot. So let's just try it out and see if we can get a positive ID on this gentleman. I didn't mean to drag multiple pictures. Let's unclick that and see what we get here. I didn't want to see the screenshot. I wanted to drag it. There we go. And let's put it in AI mode, see what we come up with. It's looking. Well, we'll come back to that and see if we come up with anything, but they're having this intense conversation. We are 10% through this episode. Here's another look at just these two gentlemen. He's still eating his dessert, having a intense conversation. So it says this is Edward Said, a world-renowned Palestinian American academic. I mean, we could try and see if we can get some validation on that. We'll delete this and we'll put his name in Google and see what we come up with. That is clearly not Edward Said, so disregard that. I knew we wouldn't get that good of a ID on him just based on it being the side of his head. AI is good. It's not that good. So we're going to continue. All right, so you have these two gentlemen here as well. Everybody's having their side conversations. I want to notate that no one is actually looking at the camera. So it's very likely these people don't even know their picture's being taken. And this could all be for blackmail purposes. There's always tons of pictures identifying people, and they're always prominent people. And we believe that Ghislaine Maxwell is the photographer for the majority of these photos, seeing as she's got all of this high-end professional camera equipment. We discussed that in the comment section in previous episodes. So here's two more gentlemen having a conversation. All right, here's this gentleman again in front of that chalkboard that we've seen in a previous episode in Jeffrey's house, and this gentleman as well. If anybody can identify these two gentlemen, please put it in the comment section. My detective sleuths, we're all on the case together. All right, so we have this gentleman talking to the bushy-haired man. So if we get a face picture, we're 15% through this episode, of the guy with the bushy hair, we should be able to identify him. We got this gentleman here. We could see if we can get a positive ID of him. That looks like a pretty decent image there that we should be able to possibly get something going as far as his identification. We can only try and see what we get. Okay, so it zoomed in on the glasses. We didn't get his whole head. So let's try it now. I don't know why it wouldn't just capture the entire image. It's still looking at glasses. Danny Elfman, the renowned American composer, singer, and songwriter. So we're going to take that name and we're going to put it in here and see if we get a match. We need confirmation. That does not look like that individual unless all of his hair turned gray. I mean, it could be, I guess, but most likely, I'm assuming it isn't. So we're going to move forward to the next file. But these guys are all having intense conversations. All right, here's this gentleman here. See if we can zoom out. We'll zoom out and get a headshot there. And we will attempt to identify him based on his picture. See if that works. Let's go back to our file here. I'm going to go in AI mode. See what they come up with. Okay, this gentleman is a dead match here, but this is on TikTok, so this is probably going to take us off the page we're on. Individual is Giles Crow. Let's see. Sounds French. I probably butchered that name, but let's see if we can get a positive ID on this individual and see if he matches. I don't think he does, so we're going to move right along. If anyone knows who that individual is, please put it in the comment section. Always appreciate it. So here we have these three gentlemen once again in front of this picture. Once again, Ghislaine or their photographer is getting pictures of every single person, notating that they were at this party. It's almost like surveillance footage, you know, as far as some sort of investigative photographer that would be on a sting. No one's looking at the camera. There's no flash being used that would draw attention, just random pictures. So we've got this gentleman here. We can see if we can get a positive ID on him. He kind of looks like possibly a professor or something like that. It's just got that look to him. But like I said, we don't assume anything. So we'll see if we can get a positive ID on him. If not, if anybody can do that in the comment section, please let us know who this gentleman is. Okay, it's zoomed in on his glasses. So we could try it again. Just to see if we can get a positive ID of this gentleman. Okay, it's just showing his outfit. AI is being literal. Okay, so we are 20% through this episode. All right, there's those ugly walls again, and he's having this conversation with this individual. Pretty intense conversation. Moving right along. All right, here's this individual talking to this individual as well. I would love to identify one of these guys. Let's see if we get lucky here. All right. AI mode. See if it comes up with anything better. It's thinking, it's thinking, it's thinking. So this image is Zlatko Krnkovic, a prominent Croatian literary translator. I don't know if that is a positive ID. We can try and see if that name matches any images that would be like this individual. I mean, I'm not buying it, so we're not going to say that's a positive ID. We have this gentleman here. Let's try this one. Just to make sure we can't get the ID using AI and Google. Let's take a quick look. All right, we can't get an ID on him either. But they're all at the party, and as you can see, you got this woman here that appears to be paying attention to their conversation. All right, you have Jeffrey and the man with the ponytail. Looks like they're in a corner having a deeper conversation. So all these prominent figures are all in this location, all at this party, and they're canoodling with themselves and Jeffrey Epstein. We could see if, since we have a front shot of this person, and he's got a rather distinctive look, perhaps we may be able to get a positive ID on him. Just make sure we zoom out here and see what we can get. Edwin Rooch, founder of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy. I didn't even know that was a center. Let's make sure we get just the name as opposed to other words. And we're going to put him in the Google search based on images to see if he matches this individual. So, I mean, here, I guess it's possible. It appears he has the same glasses and the same eyes. Well, what does this gentleman do? We already discovered he's the director for the Center of Culture of Empathy. So, and he does training courses. Okay, so like I said, all prominent individuals at the party. Epstein is only going to invite people that he could potentially use. We should be able to get a positive ID on this man just based on his hair. It's very unique. So if they can't identify him, that would be sad. So let's see who he is. Daniel Halpern, a prominent American poet, editor, and publishing executive. Now, as I said, it would only be people of prominence. There's nobody that's going to be there that would be societally considered a nobody. Everybody has to be someone that could be used. So this is clearly Daniel Halpern. I mean, look at that picture. You can't mistake this man for anybody else. So this is a positive ID. And as we said, he's a person of prominence. Moving right along. We are 25% through this episode. We have this individual sleeping on a pillow. Seems like a close-up picture. Let's see if we can get some of the surrounding imagery possibly so we can match the face. Okay, so this was zoomed in like this. He's on an old-fashioned plane. I say old-fashioned because of all this cloth. I don't think they make planes like this. But there's another individual asleep. We actually do have a flash. Now the question is, why do we have a flash? Well, one, we can't see the person taking this picture, which seems to be all for blackmail and for notation. And the only reason there's a flash, I believe, is because they're asleep, meaning these gentlemen don't even know their picture is being taken. It reminds me of Sean Diddy Combs. Like they said, he had a lot of recording equipment in his home, and obviously you can't get people in their natural habitat doing incriminating things if they know they're being recorded. But here they are. Moving to the next file. All right, here this gentleman is asleep again. We know who that is behind him. And you've got a bed there to the right. I don't know if there's anybody on there, but it does look like that is a sleeping area. So this was a plane with multiple people on it. All right, here you have another picture of Mick Jagger. Now, we said before in episode 33, after we got to the Mick Jagger photo, all the files disappeared. But as we found out in the comments section, They are all listed vertically. So we're going to go back in a special episode and we're going to review all of those missing files, even if it's only a 5-10 minute video. If it's only 10 to 15 files, like I said, we promised we would get all the files. Now this is a live concert. You see everybody is away from the stage. Here's the stage. In the view of this photo, they're literally on the stage. So as we know, they were at a dinner party with Mick Jagger, so they're very close as far as to be able to get these tickets. They're right there, and there's the crowd. So, like I said, people of prominence, right? We've seen Chris Tucker, Bill Clinton, we've seen Michael Jackson. So these are all prominent people. They don't associate with anybody that they can't gain something from. All right, so here is a redacted woman. I would like to say she is a minor, but she's got a wedding ring. And there's a weird zebra leg here, stockings on the table. You've got a picture of a bunch of naked men in a pool. Doesn't seem like your normal doctor's office photos, so I'm assuming this must be Jeffrey's house or some other weird person's house. Can't really make out the picture there, but there's this woman. Now this is clearly a front shot of decent quality, and we should be able to identify her just like we did Mr. Halpburn. So let's plop that in there and see who she is. Bet she's someone of prominence. Let's go to AI mode. And she is Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, who's commonly known as Fergie. She's a British author and spokesperson who was married to Prince Andrew, the second son of Queen Elizabeth II. So this is in the Epstein files, the ties to England. Recent reports from early 2026 have focused on her historical connections to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, hence why she's in the pictures of the file, following the release of a large cache of documents known as the Epstein files, which we just so happened to be reviewing. Employment requests unearthed emails from May 2010 reportedly show Ferguson repeatedly begged Epstein to hire her as a house assistant because she was in desperate need of money. Congressional testimony, there are reports that she could be called to testify before the U.S. Congress regarding her links to Epstein, which included personal and business ties. Relationship revelations, leaked messages suggest her relationship with Epstein was much closer than previously known, with allegations surfacing that she had once expressed being madly in love with him. She disappeared from public view following these revelations and reports that King Charles stripped her of various royal associations. She has reportedly kept a low profile and may have left the UK for an undisclosed location. What a coincidence. So, there's the ties to nobility. And she was stripped of her title. I thought I saw something on the side. What's Diddy got to do with this? AI mode. I just thought it was interesting that Diddy's name popped up. So let's Google that. Let's take this out. Let's type in Sarah Ferguson and Diddy pop up linked together. What a coincidence. Sarah Ferguson and Diddy, author defends friends with benefits claim. Sarah Ferguson was allegedly friends with benefits with Sean Diddy Combs, who is also accused of being a trafficker. You see how this is all tying together? There she is in all of her disgrace. And here she is with this gentleman here. Looks like in a busy city. We don't know who this is. Maybe it's security. He's got the same outfit as this guy, except he's got something on his collar there. Both wearing ties. Blue shirts. I'm assuming he has black pants as well. We're going to move forward. All right. So here we have Mick Jagger. And as you can see, he is being recorded. And the person that is recording this is right behind him. So you see these guys in collared shirts. The guy's got a trombone there. The band's there. They're on the stage. So they're all in cahoots. We saw Mick Jagger with Jeffrey Epstein and Garan. It's safe to say that they were all in the same circle. Here is Sarah Ferguson, the fallen Duchess of York, with this young woman. It's not the same one from earlier, no wedding ring, but she's got some beads there, which indicates this is probably a very young person. They're in New York here. You can see the license plate on the street. This almost looks like similar to the same spot where she took that picture with the other gentleman. But let me go back just to make sure she has the same outfit. All right, there she is. Yeah, she's got the same outfit on. Very interesting chains there. So, yeah. All right, so here you have Jeffrey, and we don't even have to identify this gentleman. We know him well enough. And if you haven't figured it out, you haven't seen enough episodes, let me just spell it out for you. That's going to be... Let's set this up properly. That's going to be Mr. Les Wexner. And this was Jeffrey's claim to fame. This gentleman that he got millions, possibly billions of dollars from. If you don't believe it's him, take a look at this face and that face. That one and that one. You tell me that's not Les Wexner. It's almost like a tongue twister. That is 100% Les Wexner. I don't need to do any Google image searches. Look, they even put them next to each other. So this guy actually testified recently that he knew that Epstein was defrauding him out of money. Now, clearly, Jeffrey was his financier, but he knew what he was doing. And he claimed in court this year that the reason that he never addressed how much money that he claims was stolen from him by Jeffrey Epstein was because he feared the ramifications. But he was the money guy that built this guy. So we're not buying it. Lots of redactions here. Redacted person, redacted person, redacted person, redacted person. I don't know if it's because these were minors, because this guy is clearly shown here as well as this person. So I don't know if these are associated people or they're just getting the children out of there. Moving right along. We are 35% through this episode. Here we have a gentleman in a leather jacket. It says the revolting French. Today, cloudy. Tomorrow, sun and clouds. Well, this is odd. There's a skirt and candy cane stockings. Moving forward, where is this going? Okay, so this is a man in a striped shirt, in a skirt, with ripped stockings and boots, and we have spectators. And this guy's recording on a very old phone. Kind of tells you what year this was. I want to see what we can make out on this wall. This clearly says New York Landmark Preserve. Gansevoort. Something. The Gansevoort. I want to look this up. I don't even know if I can spell this properly. Where'd it go? Gansev. 2 O's RT. New York. So what is that? Okay, so this is Gansevoort Street. But it's clearly in New York. We saw the license plate early of New York. So we're just placing this JBL speaker. And you've got these spectators. There's a neon sign here in the background. We're going to move forward. All right. So we've got this gentleman with the hairy arms. Almost pom-poms, and he's got some sort of bar. It's almost like a burlesque. Some sort of implant or fake breasts. He's got a redaction of his private parts in the boots, the high-heeled boots here, on the counter. You see the refrigerator there. These guys all have drinks, and they're all spectating. The funny thing is, this guy's redacted, and if you go back one file, well, before we do, let's check one thing out here. Besides him, blue shirt, arm resting on arm resting on face. We go back. Oh, I did it again. 34, 42. I've gone too far. 32. Excuse me, the number was 4. 34, 34. It's a duplicate. The same number, that's why I didn't. Oh, I'm wrong again. Okay, this is the file that we wanted. Final answer. Alright, so like I was saying, oh, I'm wrong again. 36. We're getting sidetracked here. So there he is. Blue shirt, arm on face. Hope you guys got as much of a laugh out of that as I did. I accidentally took a number out and it took me a minute to get back to the file we were on. But clearly, now that we're back on track, that's this gentleman right here. So it made no sense to redact his face there. Let's see if I can get it right this time. Because here he is. So yeah, they did you a disservice, whoever you are. But he seems very intrigued as to what's going on here. But speaking of what's going on here, let's dive into that. I don't know how much more in depth they're going to get with this, but I mean, just look at it. Now, so I'm still interested in this sign. I saw something in the Google search about meat packing. No pun intended. Let me see. But this is actually clear now. Factories, the neighborhoods, commercial, evolution escalated after 1900 with the completion the nearby Gansevoort and Chelsea Piers construction of the Holland Tunnel, the elevated Miller Highway, and the freight railway. Now, what is the significance of this being here? Does this have any... I figured this might be some sort of identifier of this building. I would love to know this building, but we're going to continue. So here, and I wonder if Garan is the photographer on this one, because she's normally the photographer, and it's a zoomed in photo of this guy in the skirt on his private, and he's on the bar. This is in the Epstein files. These are the things that weren't spoken about. Kash Patel didn't speak about this. This wasn't spoken about in the hearings. Here he is once again, facing backwards, and he's in underwear with what appears to be a diamond on his buttocks. So make of that what you will. We are 40% through this episode. And here he is again, taking off his shirt in a bra and zoomed in on the lingerie. Alright, this is the same gentleman here, and he has on nipple rings, possibly completely nude, in the stockings. And as you can see in the corner here, spectators, there's the sign. So yeah, this is the lifestyle that they were into, and this is what they were doing, and make of it what you will. But they're clearly different. So this was the picture, the file we jumped to earlier. He's got his navy pants on, his hoodie with the American flag, and he's staring at his dog. I'm almost 99% sure that this would be Garan taking these pictures, because she's the only one that would put up with this guy long enough to be the photographer for him staring at his dog on the floor. Alright, here we have another close-up of Jeffrey and the dog. They both appear to be staring at the camera person, who's most likely Garan. And there he is again, staring at the dog staring at the camera. Now this doesn't have any relevance for our investigation other than to show you just how weird Jeffrey is, especially if they felt the need to have close-up shots of that burlesque show. So there he is, staring at the dog. And here he is, staring even closer to the dog. I mean, there's multiple shots here. The only thing I could take from this file is, if anybody could tell me what that necklace is right there, I think I have an idea. But here's a little pop quiz. Put that in the comment section if you know what that is. And once again, he's having a staring contest with the dog. Alright, so here we have someone that looks like they're reading some sort of flight manual. Let's make a note. We've got a blue checkered shirt, and we've got a blue hair tie. There's another co-pilot here, married. Let's make a note of that hand there. Blue hair tie, elevated in the air, so the plane is in the air. Let's try to zoom out. Okay, there's the blue shirt. So who is this individual? We are 50% through this episode. We got so deep in the files there as far as the extreme and bizarre content we were seeing, I almost forgot to call out what percent of the episode we were in. So, but here they are over these planes here. And I say they because there was clearly a hand of another person. Same blue shirt. And I can safely say this is probably Garan just by the side face structure there. And of course you still have that blue shirt there. There she is looking at the planes. It doesn't look like flying the plane over the planes. Doesn't look like she's flying the plane. It's kind of appearing as if she's spectating at this point. Oh, I stand corrected. Here's Garan, and clearly her hand is on the controls there. So I don't know if this is some sort of flight lesson or she's already a pilot. But that does remind me of the fact that I just read an article the other day that basically showed that Jeffrey Epstein, with his property in New Mexico, the Zorro Ranch, he was attempting to build an airstrip with no permits. Now, why would somebody need to build an airstrip with no permits? Well, if you had a permit, they know you have an airstrip, which means you have to follow all the flight laws, which means having flight logs and notifying, I believe it's the FAA, I could be wrong, of when you're taking off, when you're landing, and who's going to be on your planes. So I don't know, if you were running an illicit trafficking ring, you might not want to know, you might not want people to know when you're taking off, when you're leaving, and who's on your planes. And you'd also have to have some people who knew how to fly. Hence, Ghislaine Maxwell in this giant peacock hat. Looks like they're in some sort of shopping center with a lot of weird hats. This kind of reminds me of Dr. Seuss. We are going to move along. We are 55% through this episode. There she is again in the hat. Alright. So here she is once again with the hat over the top of her face. There's that blue checkered shirt. It's safe to assume she has a blue hair tie on the back of her head in this photo. She went from pilot to modeling goofy hats. Now we're back to the plane. She still has her hand on the controls here, and it looks like somebody's recording. I don't know if this is the co-pilot or if this is Jeffrey in the back of this plane. Could be a helicopter. We're not sure. We can't really make out the rest of the plane or helicopter. We just see the cockpit, but there's the other person, and she's clearly controlling it. But I don't think she might have been a novice, Just looking at her face, she doesn't look too comfortable. It almost looks like she is taking some training as far as flying this plane. They seem pretty high in altitude. You can see the cars there. They're very, very small, so they're pretty high up in the air. All right, here you have Garan once again, still controlling the plane. And obviously, this co-pilot is not the one that's taking the picture. It's clearly somebody that's behind the, maybe I should call him the pilot, because I would believe she would be the co-pilot if she's learning how to fly. Here she is again, still looking down. Yeah, if you're an experienced pilot, a lot of these knobs and things like that, you would have used them so much, you would just know where they are. She seems clearly focused on what she's doing, so she's probably learning how to fly, and they're still pretty high up in the air. All right, here she is again. So this is just somebody in the background taking numerous pictures. I'm assuming it's probably Jeffrey, since they were inseparable. They were like Bert and Ernie. So that's probably him taking this photo. Almost said Mario and Luigi, but they seem like they were a pair that stuck together. So we got this gentleman. We've got this hallway with these giant paintings that almost take up the whole size of the wall, with these giant archways. We've got some chairs and what appears to be some sort of horse artwork in this main hallway. Let's see if we can identify who this gentleman is, even though the picture does look a little blurry. Who knows, we might get lucky. Let's see what AI comes up with for us. Take a sip of my water there. All right, so that's clearly just pointing out his shirt. I really can't make this person out. But as I always say, if anybody knows who he is, please put that in the comment section. We'd appreciate it. Must be of some importance since they're taking a picture of him in the hallway. So there he is once again lounging on this couch. I'm going to try one more time to get a positive ID on him just to see if we have some better results. He seems of some importance, but there is one thing I did notice just from seeing this picture. I'm talking to you guys as if you've seen every episode, which I hope you have. And if you haven't, then you've got about 34 more episodes to watch. Let's just see if anything comes up for this gentleman. No. Okay, so we'll come back to that. So in a previous episode, I don't know which episode it was. Maybe somebody could put in the comments section. We'll just use this as a quiz as well, along with that necklace that Jeffrey had on. There was an aerial photo, which I'm assuming was them descending. I don't think it would be ascending, because you'd be focused on taking off and getting level in the air as opposed to landing. That would be more of a focus of the pilot. And as we've seen in all of those pilot photos of Ghislaine Maxwell flying, there's somebody behind her taking the pictures. So I'm almost willing to bet $100 that would be the same individual that took the picture, the aerial picture of them descending, that looked exactly like this pink house here, this salmon colored house. It looked just like this. I think I even called it a Spanish style house. Somebody wants to go back to that episode and throw it in the comment section so we know exactly what episode it was. And if you're really good, perhaps you can tell us the minute mark of that episode. So let's see if any of the thousands of viewers can see what timestamp that was. So I'm assuming, just based on the chronological order and the timing, that Ghislaine was probably piloting that plane, or maybe the actual pilot landed it, because that's a pretty serious part. One of the most important parts of flying, the takeoff and the landing. But someone took a picture that looked exactly the same as this property. So that was probably Jeffrey Epstein recording Ghislaine, because I can't see anybody else being with her in a plane while she's flying it, since they were inseparable. Moving forward, I've spoken about that enough. All right, so here we have, this isn't the dinner party. I don't know if this is the same restaurant that had that trans gentleman dancing on the bar. Maybe not, but seems like a normal setting, but they are taking a picture with each other. But this is the weird thing about it. So there does appear to be a flash, and they don't even notice the cameraman. So I don't know if these are zoomed in photos from what we've been talking about in the comments section. She did have some pretty high grade photography equipment. So there may be a good chance she may have been on the other side of the room and zoomed in on this. But from the look of the picture, it looks like they're literally right in front of these two individuals. But with a flash camera, because there's clearly light, you would think that it would cause some sort of flinching, or, just at least the closing of the pupils just to avoid the light. But let's see if we can figure out who any of these gentlemen are. We'll start with this man here, since this does look like a pretty decent grade photo with good lighting. Maybe we can find out who this gentleman is. It's thinking about it. And it goes to a shirt. Okay, John Benthal, a guitarist and musician. Now, I'm not too sold on that, so we're going to do what we always do, which is Google it to see if we can get some additional images that'll confirm this is the individual we're talking about. Kind of like what we did with Sarah Ferguson, the fallen Duchess of York. So we'll go to images. I don't see any images whatsoever that resemble. Let me try typing in guitarist to see if we can get anything better. Okay, so we have this photo here. I mean, it's possible. He's looking down in this photo. The ears look kind of similar. If anybody knows this musician, I mean, this one looks a little closer to him. You know what? This looks very close to this gentleman. But we know that he, like we always say, he associated people, prominent, affluent figures. And if he did know this gentleman, if this is the same person, that would make sense. I'm not going to attempt to identify this person because just with the side profile, we haven't had the best luck getting those. But if anybody knows who this gentleman is, please put it in the comments. It's not too far-fetched to say he knew musicians, seeing as he had all of those really close-up pictures of Mick Jagger literally live in concert on the stage. So once again, this kind of proves my whole theory of her, Ghislaine being a student of piloting, because it appears she's looking in, taking notes of some kind, or being explained the procedures of whether it's plane safety, maintenance, or flying. And of course, you have the photographer behind her getting the images, which is probably Jeffrey Epstein. Moving right along. All right, here you have some young person. I'm assuming he's over the age of 18 because we can see his head. But he's looking in a chicken coop here, and it's in the plains. And the funny thing is, this kind of looks very similar to the planes that they were flying over that they took pictures of. But you can see a chicken there, so it's some sort of chicken coop or ranch. All right, here you have that gentleman that was, since we fumbled the files earlier, let's see if we can find where this guy was. Just saw this file not too long ago. Oh, there he is. So it's just this gentleman. But the picture I wanted to find was this one. Same guy. Now he's on the gun range. See, I told you I'd make it worth your while. I don't know if we can get a positive ID with these glasses, but he appears to be taking some sort of gun lesson. So random, we go from a burlesque trans show to this guy on a range, looks like in a plane as well, just kind of like the one that they were flying over. You can tell this guy is the instructor because he doesn't have as much ear protection, which most gun instructors tend to do, and he's observing what he's doing here, his posture. which honestly I don't think he has that great of a posture here. He's kind of leaned, slouching, but I digress. He should be leaning forward. But there he is. But before we click off this photo, since we've got some better lighting, more resolution, figure we have a little humor on this Mother's Day since it's a holiday. More lighthearted episode, even though this is a very unlighthearted issue here. But let's see if we can identify this individual. Okay, so it's just pointing out his earring, his hearing protection there. I do really obviously want to see who this person is, because clearly he's of some sort of importance. He's hanging out in the house. He's taking gun lessons. What's going on there? But we're going to move forward. All right, so here we have Jeffrey playing ping pong in front of an elevator. Now, the first thing I think here is this must be a private floor owned, because no one would feel comfortable playing table tennis or ping pong, whatever you want to call it, in front of an elevator shaft, because this would have the most traffic of the building. People would be coming in and out. So the only reason you would set up a stationary table tennis or ping pong table in front of an elevator is if you know no one was going to be coming or going, at least without being invited. So he's playing ping pong with this gentleman here, and it looks like they're maybe in another country, but in a pretty regular setting. This isn't a castle. This doesn't seem exclusive in any way, shape, or form. And if you look out the window, like I said, I'm all about the details. Clearly says the Sheraton right there. So there's a hotel right across the street. So I don't know if this is just, you can see the ping pong ball there. They're just having some recreation. We are 70% through this episode. This is a little longer. What file we're on. There he is picking up his ping pong ball. And there's the ball in motion. They really took a lot of photos of Jeffrey playing ping pong. There's another look at the Sheraton. Another look at the Sheraton, Jeffrey. I'm only seeing the background at this point because I'm not too interested in them playing ping pong. I'm just move along. Even though this is the business, it doesn't hurt to do some more extensive research. So we have these rolling hills here. I don't know who this gentleman is, but I'm sure we'll be finding out soon enough. We are 75% through this episode. Another duplicate photo of this greenery here on the side of this mountain. Moving right along. Here you have Jeffrey walking down the dock, and you've got some docked boats here. We don't know who this gentleman is. And we have Mr. Jean-Luc Brunel once again with what appears to be a Coca-Cola or potentially a rum and coke. I don't know if this is just a view of some sort of dock cafe since they're having drinks, or if they're on a boat in the ocean. You can see the water there. There's Jean-Luc Brunel again. There he is again. Lots of duplicates of his good friend Jean-Luc Brunel, the alleged trafficker from France. There he is again. And if anybody forgot, in just that short period of time, Jean-Luc Brunel. There he is. I know someone pointed him out very early on, because we've seen this guy in a couple episodes. And when they pointed it out, I went straight to Google and researched him. And I was not shocked at all to find out about all of his allegations for trafficking. So this seems like a pretty wide network in multiple countries. So this guy may have very well just been the Jeffrey Epstein of France. But we're going to move forward. And as you can see, you have these three gentlemen looking like they're having the time of their lives. Well, we can't even call them gentlemen. Let's call them three individuals. We've got Jeffrey Epstein, this individual here, and this redacted individual who appears to be a minor. Let's take a look at the decor a little bit. See if we can see some of, we're pretty sure this is his house. So let's see if we can make out any of the images in this picture like we do in the Epstein properties, but we can't really see anything here. We can make out some people, but we can't really see who they are because it's pretty pixelated. You've got these cubbies in the wall. We saw that prevalent in Jeffrey's house. Really high ceilings. They might want to take care of that giant crack there. In their dome, they've got the chandelier. We've got some photos on the other side. Let's see if we can make any sense of those. Those are dark as well. I'm going to still zoom in as much as I can to see if I can even make out any figures. Really can't. Okay, we're going to move on to the next file. All right, so we got a more well-lit photo. Giant barn doors. You see the chandelier in the background. So this is the room they were just in. You've got this woman with the red purse here and the gray overcoat. Jeffrey, of course. Possibly this gentleman right here. We're going to take a look at some images here. You tell me if this isn't comedian Bill Garan slash actor Bill Garan. Now, we know that Epstein only identifies with people of nobility, actors, or people that have something for him to gain from. He's not going to associate with anyone that isn't possibly a ladder climb. That's just his nature, his predatory nature. So I believe, this is Billy Garan. Looks dead on to me, nose and everything. So we're going to move forward. Billy Garan. You can see the chandelier there, so they're just outside of the room. We're not going to waste any more time with that file. Now that we have positively identified who that individual is, now look at the layout of this home. It's got the fireplace with the family crest there. We got this photo or this painting here. It appears to be, looks like an angel and a soldier. You see the armor plates and the helmet. Very interesting. Aside from that, I don't see anything else. Italic, gold walls. There's Jeffrey. Since Jeffrey was a chameleon, we noticed that his house looks like all these other houses. So us knowing his personality, there's a good chance that he modeled his home and everything that he had in his house as simply a replication of what everybody else that was a billionaire was doing. You see the gold candles, he had gold candles. You see the vintage chairs, he had the gold vintage chairs with the gold italics. So I think he was just mimicking everything that the people he was associated with were doing. He was strictly about imitation and no authenticity. Here's the woman again that we saw outside with the red bag. She's got a either diamond necklace or a pearl necklace, but she's redacted, which means she might potentially be a victim or she might be a minor. But look at this circle here. You got Billy Garan, and everybody looks like he's got his arms folded. This looks like the gentleman that was redacted in the white shirt, and Jeffrey staring off into space. You got these pictures on the wall in gold frames, of course. This looks like it could be George Washington's sister or brother, but lots of gold. This kind of looks like that dresser Jeffrey had. Jeffrey had the piano in his house, the candlesticks. So everything he did, this is like uh, billionaire 101. I guess you have to have all of this stuff in your house. So of course he would have it. Here's Jeffrey over here, another one of these pictures that looks like nobility, something from the 1800s. The gold frames. Like it's very typical. There's Billy Garan, and of course, you've even got the leopard print. You know, Jeffrey had plenty of leopard print in his New York home. And is there anything else worth mentioning here? He had little world globes and stuff like that, just like this. And we'll look at this. So if you were looking at this from a distance, you probably wouldn't notice it, but of course I would, right? So we have a baby holding up this drawer here. For anybody that's skeptical, you tell me that's not a baby holding up a dish. So Jeffrey and Billy Garan might have more than we thought in common. Here is the gentleman that was redacted. We notice him in the all white. This is Jeffrey and their photographer behind him. Got the gold candlesticks like Jeffrey had in every room in his house. I'm going to take a look at some of these paintings. You can't really make them out, but they do look a little creepy. Moving right along. Here you have another staged photo. Jeffrey on the corner looking out the window. This guy in the Superman pose looking out a window. And the photographer here. Just picture how odd it would be to be taking this picture. It's completely staged. There's no conversation being had. It's just weird people doing weird things. We are 90% through this episode. So here we have Ghislaine Maxwell pretending to be drawing water from a water well. Nothing more to see here. And you have Ghislaine walking towards this manor that looks like it's owned by Dracula. And as you can see here, if we zoom in, it's in the background, so it's easily mistakable. But you have a gentleman here. You have the gentleman in the green and black sweater that we saw earlier, right there. And you have two gentlemen having a meeting there. But what is going on in this place? What is this about? Knowing all the individuals involved, probably something that shouldn't be happening. Very strange meetings with actors, singers. We've got Chris Tucker, we've got Kevin Spacey, we've got Bill Clinton, we've got Mick Jagger. The list goes on and on. You have all those prominent poets and physicists and things like that that we saw at the party earlier in this episode. You have endless documentation in the form of photography. Very interesting that Ghislaine would be holding a photo camera here. Got this storm drain here, and I don't know if this is an optical illusion. It looks like you could walk through there, but this back wall looks very artificial to me. I mean, look at this fake brick, and none of these quote unquote tiles are even. I mean, look at this one, kind of veers off like a drawing. So yeah, they were making lots of photo compilations as notation of prominent individuals that they were most likely blackmailing and catching in compromising positions. This was what was written in all of the investigations, and that's what I think was happening as well. Now, here we have the guy in the black and the green that was in the distance where Ghislaine Maxwell was walking. Got a Bentley in pull-in garage, but this isn't your typical pull-in garage. You've got chandeliers, you've got statues, you've got gold mirrors, gold candles here, and even more interesting. So, like I said, this isn't your typical pull-in garage. This is billionaire status, and you have this gentleman here who was redacted earlier. He's got the exact same outfit on. He's been redacted in all the photos, and here he is. I'm assuming he might be a minor, but he's unredacted. So this reminds me of the flub that they did with the trans gentleman on top of the counter of that bar, and the guy that was in the side corner being redacted, but then being unredacted. And I don't know why he'd be redacted because he was an adult. So here we have a pool table. There is the gentleman in the red and green, and there's that woman with the red book bag right in front of him. We are 95% through this episode. All right, so here we have Jeffrey and what appears to be like a medieval times catapult launcher. Looks like something that you would throw a flaming rock on in the 17, 16, 1500s. You see Ghislaine kind of slumped over looking at it, and you have this woman here. Jeffrey's looking at her. She's looking back in this direction. Her head is tilted that way. I don't know if this is a museum, if this is someone who is trafficked, or if this is just a relative of one of the owners of this property. Nonetheless, very odd stuff. We're going to move forward. All right, so here we have this giant waterfall leading into this pond slash pool, whatever you want to call it. And if you look very, very far into the distance, and you're paying attention to detail, which is what I do, which is probably why you guys are at this channel. You see Billy Garan, the comedian here. You see the redacted slash unredacted person here. You see what appears to be Jeffrey and Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, here we have that same gentleman in the red and green looking very suspicious here. And you've got Poseidon. Thanks again to whoever mentioned that in the comment section. And it looks like he's striking down some sort of sea creature with a Triton sword. All right, here we have that same gentleman on the fountain, which seems rather dangerous. If it's kind of wet there, he could fall, definitely crack his head. But for the sake of the picture, he'll do it. And we're going to move right along. All right, so here it appears we're back at Jeffrey Epstein's little St. James Island. The files just jump from place to place, but we've been through them enough to be well versed in the setting change. You can see the palm trees, his Connex boxes, lots of equipment, and his four-wheelers. In the last file of this episode, file number 3500, appears to be another aerial close-up of this who's probably a maintenance worker. So I don't know if this is a drone, most likely because it's really high in the air. I don't see any person being this high unless they're in a building. And this definitely could be Ghislaine taking a picture or it could be a drone. I'm not sure. But we leave you with that. And as always, I'm very appreciative of all the subscribers, everyone who hit their notification button, anyone that reposts on their Twitter, their TikTok, their Instagram, their Facebook, for all those people that are unaware that someone's actually reviewing all the files. Get this knowledge to them. A lot of people don't know, whether it be your parents, whether it be your grandparents, whether it be coworkers. Everyone needs to educate themselves about these files, and not just about Jeffrey, but all of these individuals we're seeing in these files that were associated with Jeffrey Epstein, that are still mainstream, that are still influencing people in the public. This needs to be addressed, and accountability needs to happen as it pertains to the atrocities that surrounded Jeffrey Epstein and his peers. I've had you guys more than long enough. I'm going to see you guys in the next episode, which will be episode number 36, where we will be going over files 3500 through 3600. With that being said, point out anything that you saw that I didn't mention in these files today, because there was a lot going on, as we assumed there would be in these Epstein files, and it's only going to get more and more twisted as we go. I look forward to going through that adventure with you guys. And as always, you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next episode, which won't be very long. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next one.